Hi everybody, welcome to Inspiring Adventures. I'm Melissa Reyes, and today I welcome Kerry Wekelo. And she's the author of a great new book called Culture Infusion. Welcome, Kerry.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to finally meet you. We've been connecting online on social media, and I want to thank you for your awesome article that we shared on MizMeliz.com.
Yeah, that was fun. There was a lot of good traction on that article.
Well, for everybody watching who saw that, thank you very much for sharing it, for reading those great principles that you shared that came from Culture Infusion. Tell me about it.
Sure. So Culture Infusion, it's actually 9 principles to create and maintain a thriving organizational culture. And in that article, we were really focusing more on how you bring in your own personal wellness to lead by example, from prioritizing your own personal wellness to how you're breathing, how you're communicating during the day as well. And then also making sure that you're taking time for yourself to do things that you love to do.
Well, that's exactly why I was attracted to you and what you're putting out there, because the few things I just jotted down, what you said, leading by example. I am all about that. I think that some of us are natural leaders. I mean, I hate to say that myself, it's kind of awkward, but when I was in high school, I was chosen to be a leader, to be in on a retreat and to be trained as a leader. And I think that some people, are teachers and are coaches and, the bosses recognize certain qualities in people that are leaders. And when you do recognize that in yourself, you end up having a responsibility to lead. And I think that just kind of became something that was an attribute that I took, I don't know, it was big importance in my life. So how do we lead by example? And that principle, how did that come to be something that you chose to make your business and that you write about?
Right. So that's actually leading by example is the very first principle of Culture Infusion. And I think I always look at it from 2 parts, and that's your internal view, like making sure that you're self-aware and how you're showing up as well, because many times how you view yourself is different than how other people view you. So taking time to really understand what your triggers are, and when you are not being your best self, what happened, and doing that self-reflection. So that's one of the things that I spend a lot of time on personally, but as I'm coaching and mentoring, especially people within our organization, is that, how are you showing up, and what are your biggest triggers?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one part is that internal view, but then the external and how you are leading by example. And for me, work-life balance is a huge one. And I had a big issue with some of our team this week on that. And really, it's hard to say no. And I'm a recovering people pleaser, so I get it.
Recovering
and
okay,
we're at a point where we have so much work that we're going to have to, until we can staff up, say no. And so coaching people through that saying no, and giving examples of why I personally am saying no when it doesn't feel good or it's going to over leverage me. And what I've found is when I say no and I explain why, people are very accommodating. Like they don't want to push either. So I spend a lot of time. I spent all of Friday on the phone, just like, okay, how can we restructure what's on your plate?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's huge, and everybody felt so much better versus being overworked. Like the day before, I had somebody cry on the phone, and I'm like, okay, we really have to work this out. So just taking that time, and also I think it's important for me to be vulnerable too, to give examples of things that I have to reshuffle.
Well, let's go back a little bit. Tell me about your business.
Okay.
And how you came to write the book.
Sure. So I have a couple businesses, but I work for Actualize Consulting full-time, and I've been there since 2005. And we're a financial services business. And so started in 2005, and in 2010, I wasn't happy with how we were as an organization. And so my brother's actually my boss. And
Oh.
I went to him and I said, I really want to shift our focus from production to our people. And he said yes. And so over the years, we've been creating programs that are centered solely around our people, leading by intentional leadership, communicating effectively, really taking the time, especially as challenges come up, to handle them in the moment versus letting them spend, because that's where organizations spend way too much time. So if you just handle them. So over the years, just kept creating programs, changed our performance review process. And in 2016, we had 0 attrition. Our tenure was at 8 years. And my brother, who's like very analytical, is like, I think we're on to something here. And he's like, let's offer it to our clients. So it's, for me, it's such a win. This yoga mindful Kerry got to merge with my corporate business Kerry. And I show up the same no matter where I am, right? And before I was more compartmentalizing my life. And so now it's all the principles I live by daily are what I bring to work. And, that's been embraced, and especially by my finance analytical brother. I mean, that's, for me, it's just fascinating and I love it. And our people do. And that's why we're able to retain and attract really quality team members, because my brother's like, I didn't realize it was going to help attract talent too. And it is.
Wow. You must feel so good. That makes me feel good, because
I had a memory pop up on Facebook. In 2014, I wrote like my first article on happy and healthy employees, and it got picked up by like National Mortgage Professional, which I was like, huh. And my post was, that's a good sign. Like we're in the right direction. So 4 years later, still on the same path, and it just continues to, but people want to be cared about and heard, and you're at work a lot, so you might as well be happy,
right. No, absolutely. I feel that I really understand that the marriage of your home, you're feeling like let me say this again, the marriage of the life that you have, that you want to live, and then the life that you feel like you have to live because you're working and doing and paying the bills. And then if you can put that together, and that mindfulness and feeling complete, I mean, that I do call that a marriage, because I have that in my life, in my relationship, in my marriage, where I feel like really complete. I mean, I couldn't breathe without my other half. Really. Together for over 30 years. And and so and I just really, it's like I want every area of my life to be like that, and I try and make it that way. I really do. I feel like when my business life, my work life was hard, I changed my own mindset and made it the best I could make it. And I realized I could do that on my own. I couldn't change the people or the situation, and I wanted to stay in that job so I could make it my world be, with my mindfulness, I could be fine. I could make every day great. I could do my best work. But what you're doing is so much better, because you changed the whole culture and the whole. So how did you come to write the book? Because now you're just making it so everybody can do this, right?
Yeah. So when my brother came to me at the end of 2016 and said, let's offer it to our clients, along the way, I had been writing about it. Every time I would create a new program or handle a challenging situation, I had written about it. And so when I started pulling all the articles together, along the way, every time I would implement a new program or handle a challenging situation, I would write about it and get it published. So when my brother came to me and asked me to offer this to our clients, it was easy because I already had all these articles. And then once I started pulling it together to structure, it's like, oh my, I have a book. I was like, wow. Because people were like, oh, how'd you just pop out a book in a year? I'm like, well, I already had written it. It was just a matter of restructuring it and reformatting and pulling out those 9 principles from the material that I already had. So it was actually quite easy. And plus I had 3 really good editors too.
That's good. That's great.
Yeah, because sometimes when you're so close to your own material, you really need another set of eyes. And I'm a really big proponent of editors because they help bring clarity too. And for me, it took off the pressure because then I could focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah, no, I think that's something to be said about that. Let's talk about your favorite principles or the favorite topics that come up from your book that you've shared, like the article that you had on we had on MizMeliz.com.
So my favorite principle is prioritizing your own personal wellness. And with that, I look at things from daily principles, and that's how I'm breathing, moving, nourishing myself throughout the day, how I'm communicating, how I'm handling my daily challenges, and then also what am I doing to take time for myself. And one of my favorites is play. I love that. I love to play with our organization. Every time we do a seminar or a get together, it always involves play because, I mean, it's just, it takes you out of the busyness, it takes you out of your headspace and just your more joyful self. And we all have that playful nature in us, and it's just a matter of tapping into that. So that's one of my things that really, for me, keeps me going. And luckily, I have kids that are 9 and 12, so it's easy for me to play on a daily basis with them, for sure. But I like to play with adults too, so I'm always encouraging the play aspect of it.
Well, that's really awesome, since this week in my world in MizMeliz.com, the theme I always have a word of the week, and the word of the week is play, and that comes from my daily affirmations deck. I have a deck of cards, and we just draw them randomly and set them up for the weeks. Yeah, and so this week is play. So that's one of my favorite words too. So give me an example of one of your activities that you might use in your work that you play.
Yeah, so I have a friend who does improv, and she's come in twice to our group, and then now she's kind of set me free on my own. But the first thing of improv, do you know what the first rule of improv is?
I would know exactly.
Okay. It's yes and so in improv you always say
yes and in those
Okay. Yes and that goes really well with communication too, because if somebody asks you or they have an idea and they say no, that's going to put you on the defense. But if you say yes, okay, like I hear you, right? Even if you don't agree with them, at least that they feel like you've heard. So one of the games that we play, we take an object, and let's see, I have let me grab something. So this is, and so I would say this is a tower of hope. And what does that mean, right? But then I would pass it to the next person, and they would say, yes, I can see that it was a tower of hope. And then they would come up with something else, and then you pass it around the room. But it's always hilarious because, I mean, I had a little stress ball, and I said it was a loofah. Somebody said it was a meatball. Somebody said it was a hot coal. And it makes such an easy way. And I have to give all that credit to my friend Lisa, who came in and had facilitated that. And then after doing that a couple times, I now feel comfortable, and it's really one of my go-to games.
That's great.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's great. So do you start off like business meetings like that, or just yeah, that's
always
awesome.
Always.
That's awesome.
Just because, and I also like to start off meetings with some breathing and movement too.
Great.
So I'll either do that or I'll do the play. It just depends on the audience. Depends how I feel people are coming in. And many times I might start with the breathing and a little bit of movement, and then end with the play. It just really, I read the audience, see what they need.
Well, that to end with the play after maybe a heavy meeting or something, so you can lighten everybody up and lighten the mood or whatever. I mean, not that
right.
And
many times when they're coming in, maybe they had been stuck in traffic or we're just dealing with a stressful situation. So even just taking a moment just to, and I do it very, we'll go through just close your eyes and take a few breaths and just feel what you're feeling. So very nothing too yoga-ishy. I don't even know if that's a word, but
Well, it is
people accept me for who I am. Like I said, I don't compartmentalize my life anymore. I am who I am. We're going to breathe.
What is your yoga background? And do you want to talk a little bit about what you did before all this?
Sure. Well, so I actually, in 2010, when I decided to stop, compartmentalizing my life, I went on, I've been through 500 hours of yoga teacher training.
Okay.
So I'm a yoga teacher. I do that on the side. I really focus on privates because I believe that people really need that individual attention. And I also teach kids yoga because that's fun. So
Neat. Kids yoga.
I've been doing that 7 years with my kids, and they typically are in class with me. We do it as an after-school program at their school. So for me, it's just another piece of me. But every time I say I'm going to quit the kids yoga, I'm like, why would I do that? It's so much fun. Yeah. So I make time, make time for that.
I was just talking with on my other show called Last Night Show with Miz Meliz. Her name is Elise Spire. I don't know if you've heard of her. She's really cool. She is also a yoga instructor, and she was saying that she did some yoga with a child, and the father came in and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, we're playing yoga." And he said, "Oh, you don't play yoga, you do yoga." And then she said, "Oh, no, it's okay if she says that. Yoga kind of does us." And, I loved that. That was
absolutely, absolutely.
So it was cute. The little girl said, we're playing yoga.
We're playing yoga. Yeah, and that's the thing. Kids teach me so much. I learned so much from the kids. We were in class the other day, and this time it's a small class, which I really love. Usually it's like 20 kids. Now I have 9 kids, which is really nice. And they were chatty. And I was like, you know what? And this one's in the morning, and I said, they're going to have to be quiet all day in class. So I said, you know what? Let's have conversation yoga. And so I said, you just have to follow me. So I was just doing poses. I wasn't calling them out. I was just doing them. And they were following me, but each child had a chance we were rotating on what they wanted to say. And so they just kept going around the room, and they never stopped. And then when we did our relaxation, then they were laughing and I said, okay, well, we're going to do a laughing relaxation. So I'm like, I couldn't even have made that up,
you
right?
You couldn't have planned that, right?
No.
But I bet it was great because they probably were breathing deeper and better than they would normally do if they were trying to follow you because of the laughing.
Exactly. So it was, so I went from conversation yoga to laughing relaxation. So, and that's where they inspire me to think outside of the box, for sure.
That's great. And your kids are, did you say 9 and 12?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. So where do you think you'll go next? What do you see in your future?
I am helping more, companies branching, and that's why we're offering it now to our clients, helping other companies improve their corporate culture. How can they listen to their people? How can they change their business to center them around the people and just really create these organizations that are going to thrive and that their team members want to come to work every day? And I'm really passionate about it, and I'm excited to share with more organizations for sure. So that's where I'm going now. We'll see where that leads me.
That's great. And how do we get in touch with you if we wanted to, hire you for that consultation or to engage your business in improve our business or personal lives? How do we get in touch with you?
You can go to actualizeconsulting.com. And you can find me on there. It's under the areas of expertise, and there's a Culture Infusion drop down, and you can get in touch with me from there. Yeah, but I'm also on Twitter at Kerry Wekelo, Instagram Kerry Wekelo as well. So
that's great. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share? Maybe some words of wisdom on how to inspire us and on our adventures of life?
Well, I can close with my favorite quote, and it's with Helen Keller, and she says, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all." And coming from somebody who's blind and deaf, for her to say that, it's always truly inspired me to keep moving and just keep making everything an adventure, making everything a possibility to move forward in a positive way. So.
And life is a daring adventure, absolutely. We have to take that bold leap of faith and go for it. Thank you so much, Kerry.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun chatting with you.
Oh, thank you.